It's easy to sum it up. We're talking about practice.
Because it's about as casual as it gets. What's the problem now?
That's a clown question, bro.
I think we ought to send a beating at least.
World champions!
Start playing with some jam in here. Let's go.
Philadelphia, looking as only you can look. Woo!
Here we go, here we go.
And good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Perugini. I'm here with Chris Lahiff and Pat Houseman, and welcome to another edition of the Philly podcast. As we will sit down, we will talk about the Eagles game and the stash. We should say Minshew Mania has hit the airwaves of Philadelphia. That was. I know who they played. You know, they're now 12-0 against the Jets since obviously the last 12 times they played, they beat them. And you know, Gardner Minshew went in there and did what you want from your quote unquote backup quarterback. So I mean, that first half was awesome. The whole game. I mean, it was a well put together game plan. There was a good balance between the run and the pass. Defense was shaky, as you know, what we have seen earlier in the year, but they started to come around a little bit towards the end of the game. But yeah, gentlemen, how are we today?
Doing good.
Good.
Pats are up 11-8 right now, they're up 11-7 right now, so I'm happy. Doing well.
Such a weird score, 11-8.
Yeah.
So funny. So Chris, what did you think of the game? Like I said, I mean, at this point with the season, it's like I don't know, like they win, they win. That's how I'm looking at it. You know, it's like I'm just riding the wave of whatever's going on, and you know, I was happy with what I saw out of the offense. I mean, we saw Dallas Goedert, who I don't know. Some people say he's completely overrated, but Gardner Minshew found him, for 2 touchdowns and pretty much used him that entire first drive.
Yeah, we can sit there and say that it's only the Jets. Well, while you sit there and say it's only the Jets, Hurts didn't throw no touchdowns against only the Giants. He threw 3 interceptions against only the Giants. 2 of them were in the red zone. Obviously, this is still Hurts' team. I mean, as good as Minshew was yesterday, we know that he's not going to go against the grain. He's going to go with what has been somewhat successful for the Eagles. When you had to throw the ball, Minshew's your guy. Whatchamacallit is not your guy. Jalen Hurts is not your guy. He's proven it time and time again. I wish I was wrong, but we know if you get into a shootout, we got into a shootout with the Jets, which is just comical. And, here we are, and Minshew kept up with him, used Goddard in the way that he needs to be used. He read the defense. He used what they gave him, and 5 catches for 98 yards. Granted, the Jets came around, made a little adjustment, and here we are talking about he had 6 catches for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. When last week, people on social media said that he's overrated and that he needs Zach Ertz to succeed, which I think Dallas Goedert was a second-round pick for a reason. He was a projected second-round pick, unlike the quarterback. So I don't know what else you want from Dallas Goedert. You can clearly look at the 2 quarterbacks and watch the same tape, and you can see that Hurts doesn't look for the first read. After the first read, it's gone. He runs and he scrambles. And then with Minshew, you see that he looks around and he looks for that third or fourth option. Devontae Smith only had 3 or 4 targets. The game was almost kind of out of hand. Like 30-18. They were started running the ball. So while it would have been nice to see Devontae Smith get more targets, his numbers went down after the first half, and they scored that next. They scored after coming out of the second half. Goddard's numbers went down. The fact that Jalen Reagor's still on this team is. Let me rephrase that. Not that he's on this team, but that he's continually getting the ball in situations. Like the fact that he's on the kickoffs, that he's on the punt return. I don't want to see Jalen Reagor. I don't want to see Greg Ward. Give me Gainwell in the slot. Plain and simple. Give me Gainwell in the slot. And, that's what we have. Gainwell's really good. He's got good vision. You saw on his touchdown run, on the left side on the third touchdown, Dickerson and Mailata just, cleared that hole, which is going to be, seasons to come, hopefully great 1-2 combination. So the big thing is that people are comparing the 13 games now to the 12 that were played at the same time last year. Well, you have to look and see if you want to compare, the former quarterback last year who was a starter as opposed to the quarterback who's now, there's no makeshift offensive line. For the majority of the season, with the exception of Brandon Brooks, the offensive lines played together. What's his name? Sirianni has used the run game to his arsenal. Doug Peterson did not use that last year for whatever reason. Like he might have not felt comfortable with the running back situation. I don't know, but you can't compare Wentz's 3-8-1 this year to Hurts's 5-7 because they're completely two different situations when it comes to the offense. As bad as Jalen Reagor was this year, Wentz still didn't have Jalen Reagor last year. He didn't have Devontae Smith last year. He didn't have Lane Johnson last year. He didn't have Brandon Brooks last year. He didn't have Landon Dickerson. He didn't have Mailata. Like these come into play when you talk about stats. Tom Brady was so successful for his 23 years in the league or 33 years in the league. I don't know which one it is, because he always made sure that he was protected when he was in New England, because he understood that the most important position in the world is you win it in the trenches with your offensive line and your defensive line. And that's where the Eagles, I continually sit there and say, that's where the Eagles screwed the pooch last year. If your player wasn't there in the second round pick, take the Jalen Reagor pick away. Let's go to a second round pick. No reason to draft a punt returner. Or no reason to draft a backup quarterback. You draft the next best available offensive lineman. Andy Reid did it for years. Bill Belichick built it up. Like all these coaches who have been successful throughout their career always have depth. They've always had depth at the offensive line. There's always next man up, and usually it worked. Eagles, it worked. We saw it in 2017. It worked. We're seeing it this year. Whoever Landon Dickerson came from, Brandon Brooks. He went out, and Dickerson went in. So we have that going for us. So the games of football are won in the trenches. It's been said for years. It hasn't changed. As well as a passing offenses are, go look at teams who succeed, who go far. They tend to run the ball. Like 40-60, they run the ball 60 times, maybe 35% of the time, 35 to 40% as opposed to passing 60% of the time. It's just what successful teams do. You look at the offensive line in Indianapolis with Wentz. They got Jonathan Taylor. They got that stud running back. So they run the line. They run the ball a lot. You look at the Eagles. They have Miles Sanders. They had Jordan Howard when he was healthy. Boston Scott when he came out. Like they were running and they were successful. You look at the team. You look at teams like, Tennessee. They were successful. Granted, they had a ridiculous human being in the form of Derrick Henry, but when you run the ball, you tend to be more successful in the league. So that's my take on the Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, and Gardner Minshew situation. And I'm going to say it. I've been saying it all social media, all weekend on social media. 'Tis the season. Wouldn't be the holiday season without a quarterback controversy in Philadelphia.
Well, I mean, tell you the truth, I really don't think there's a controversy. I think it's just more or less people are now on the airwaves, just bringing up conversation, which rightfully so. I mean, because we saw how one quarterback can pass, and the other one, and the other one really is not known for it. So I think I agree with you though. Like, you have to stick with Hurts. I mean, at this point, you do. I mean,
but you see, here's the thing: why you sit there and say that, if he comes out flat in the first half against Washington, there's no
then
reason.
You have a story.
Now you have a reason to pull him. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
Like, there was always that. Well, can we pull him? Can we do this? Like, you never knew, but you now know what offense you're going to get. And for people who want to sit there and bash Gardner Minshew and everything else, the guys, go look at his stats. He's 8-13, and he was on a really bad Jacksonville Jaguars team in his rookie season. He led them to 6-6. 39 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like, he's got a completion percentage of 64% in the league. So, like, it's not bad. I'm not saying he's a franchise quarterback. Listen, Gardner Minshew and Jalen Hurts are backup quarterbacks in this league. They're serviceable quarterbacks. That's it. They're not franchise starting caliber quarterbacks in this league. They just don't have the arm strength for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was hearing people say that Gardner Minshew wasn't the guy in Jacksonville. No kidding. He wasn't the guy in Jacksonville. They were going to draft Trevor Lawrence.
Like that's not a. I hate that comparison because they had the number one pick. You had literally the best quarterback coming out of college, in probably since it's been as good as quarterbacks have been coming out. Probably 5 years, because Goff was a stiff. Baker Mayfield was a stiff. Baker Mayfield never should have been the number one pick, in my opinion.
No.
Cleveland, as good as they are doing with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they should have drafted Saquon Barkley, and then they could have got Baker Mayfield at 4. Again, that's just my opinion. But that's he's a legitimate stud. He was he came from a good college program. So
and here's the thing. He's a legitimate stud, but because he's on Jacksonville, look at the season he's having. I expected a little bit more from him. You expect a quarterback to make wide receivers better, and he's struggling. And granted, it's Jacksonville. I mean, because their wide receiver, Laviska Shenault, is not having a good season.
Well, he's a rookie.
He was a rookie last year, So
I thought he was a rookie this year.
No, he was there last year.
All right, and DJ Chark's been in and out.
DJ Chark's been there a couple of years, but I mean, it still comes down to you don't keep Gardner Minshew when you have a Trevor Lawrence coming out. Basically, you don't. You have to go with the quarterback.
Trevor Lawrence has the worst coaching situation in the NFL.
Yeah, he really does.
Yeah, it's a stupid comparison, and just one of the listeners brought up last week when he compared about who would you have, there's other quarterbacks who are worse in the league, and it was just a bad point. It was just a bad.
Well, it was a bad
comment.
take because
it was a terrible take.
Well, because the person mentioned 4 or 5 quarterbacks, and out of the 5, 3 went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
so I mean,
it was a terrible take. Yeah, and for all the Jalen Reagor hate, which listen, he deserves it, and I'm gonna sit there and say it, but Jalen Reagor's team didn't lose to the Lions.
No.
On the last play of the game. But real quick, we'll get to that. Anyone see that play? Why were they playing 4 yards off? Goff's an NFL quarterback.
I don't.
It was such a bad defensive play.
Like, don't get me wrong, Mike Zimmer's winning off the field because I don't look. If you want to go get a chance, Google Mike Zimmer's girlfriend. He's winning off the field, but that was just terrible coaching. That play didn't make zero sense to me. That defense, and he's supposedly a defensive-minded coach.
Well, that was bad, and so was the Ravens game going for 2 there. John Harbaugh again,
stupidity.
Thinking he's the smartest person in the room, and that's what you get. This epic stupidity.
It's Howie Roseman. It's Howie Roseman all over again, like trying to be smarter than everyone. Kick the extra point. You'll get more flack if the kicker misses it than going for it and missing it. Like you just basically handed the number 1 seed to either the Buffalo or New England. Like that stupid play call, stupid.
Yeah,
and you kept Pittsburgh in the playoff hunt.
Yep. Yeah, the Gardner Minshew. Just to touch on the Gardner Minshew thing. I mean, you're comparing Minshew, who was in his first start, to Hurts, who is making his 14th start.
It would have been a 17th start.
Yeah, it would have been 17 total. Yeah, coming out of last season into this year.
So plenty of film, and now it was a different system last year. But we're in week 11, 12. I mean, yeah. So we're in week 13. So
13.
Yeah. So he had 12 starts before that. Plenty of film on the guy. You kind of know what Jalen Hurts likes, what he doesn't like. Minshew, brand new quarterback in the system, but he has experience. He's not starting his first game. These first 2 games, he's going to put up some pride. If he plays, if he plays again, he'll probably put up some nice stats. But once teams have film on him, that those open looks that he's getting, they're going to go away because they're going to start to get his tendencies down, and his numbers are going to come back down to probably where you would expect them. So I think it's kind of an unfair comparison at this point to compare what we're seeing with him and with Jalen Hurts at the moment. I just. People need to kind of pump the brakes. Yeah, it was a good win for them yesterday. He put up some monster stats, but if you think he's going to have 3 or 4 more starts like this, where he's just going to light the world up, that's just not going to happen. So that's just my take on it. Like I said, good offensive effort yesterday against with a pretty porous defense, but that's pretty much what they're going to be seeing from here on out. Now, I would love to see him against that Washington defense, see how he does. I mean, if he goes up and he lights them up, that would be something. But, yesterday, nothing about that game in particular was like, wow, it's still the Jets. It's just like beating the Lions. It is what it is. We beat them twice a year all the time, so.
Yeah, but I get that point, but we still lost to the Giants, who have 4 wins.
Yeah, but the Giants are, again, it's you're always going to get a tough game from your division rivals. And the Giants should have won both games last year. If some fluke play, if Ingram holds onto the ball, that game's over and they sweep you. And they weren't a good team last year. I don't know the Eagles used to own the Giants, but now I feel like that's turned a little bit. I feel like the Giants actually play very well against the Eagles. I don't know what it is about the matchup, but they played really well against the Eagles the last few years. And Jones is not a good quarterback, so I don't know what it is, but
Jones is trash. Jones is straight trash. But yeah, it's I'm concerned. Well, not concerned. I want to see how Jalen Hurts rebounds from being off or out because with his injury, having this couple weeks basically to rest up. Because now we got all division games, so we have Washington, then New York, then Washington, and then end the season with Dallas. I'm interested to see how Jalen Hurts plays because so far in the division, coming out of last year since he took over the starting job, he's 0 for 4 in the division, and I think a lot of people are overlooking that and saying, "Oh, he should automatically be the starter for next year." But if you can't beat your division teams, that's telling. Like your ownership and your management is going to look at that. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to lose these next 4 games just because they're division games. But right now, with that record against division teams, that's an eye opener. It really is.
if he loses out and he goes 0-9, there is no way he's a starter next year. There is
No, I don't
there's
think he's a
absolutely no-
starter. I don't think he's a starter next year. Even if they make the playoffs, I don't think he's a starter next year.
who Jalen Hurts.
Actually,
Yeah, I don't think so.
if they make
No, if they make the playoffs, Jalen Hurts gets 2022. There's no,
Yeah,
See, I don't think so.
but there's
I
no
think-
reason not to. The
I
only
think
reason
for all the
the
reasons that we just talked about on the podcast, he can't throw the ball. I think
neither
he
can
knows
Gardner
that.
Minshew.
But
And
they're
there's
going to draft. They're going to draft somebody.
there's no one to draft. I don't want Kenny Pickett.
They're going to have to draft somebody. Look, the combine isn't here yet. Somebody's going to light it up in the combine. They're going to say he's got the best arm in the world. He can run a 4.5 40. Somebody's going to get drafted. There's going to be a quarterback or two probably drafted in the top 15 picks. You're going to say somebody's going to throw the ball 70 yards in the combine.
And the way that the picks are going, the Eagles aren't going to have a pick in the top 15.
They're going to get one of those picks in the top 15, or they're going to package two of them and get back into the top 15.
Yeah,
You have three. You can package two of those picks and get into the top 15.
Listen, they don't have three. They have two right now. And if you don't think Carson Wentz isn't getting a non-contact injury and getting put on IR next week, you're absolutely – he's at 74.9%. There is no way that that is – like – I don't. There's no. I will do our draft show. I will do our post-draft show if the Eagles draft a quarterback in the top 10. No, if there's a quarterback taken in the top 10, I'll wear a turkey costume.
well, right now,
Hold on
none of the quarterbacks are projected to go in the top 10. That's just right now. But
As of
like
right
Pat
now.
said, there's always something that happens at the combine that changes a team's outlook on a player. There's always something that happens. But as of right now, there's no quarterback that is being projected to go in the top 10. So I'm a firm believer where we're going to have these 3 first-round picks. To me, in a perfect world, you go all defense and try and fix your defensive issues. Through the draft.
Yeah, you got to replace Fletcher Cox. You got to replace Brandon Graham, and you got to replace Brandon Brooks. Plain and simple.
Right.
As much as I love Brandon Brooks, the dude's always hurt.
Well, here's my thing. It's like everyone's saying, "Oh, well, we got these 3 first-round picks. We got to go all defense." Well, you know what? There's also 6 more rounds. There's 6 more rounds of football to be drafted. So I don't feel we have to go all 3 picks. It would be nice, and I could see them doing that. But I have a feeling that with how far they're moving, not how far they're moving down, but with the way these draft picks are playing out, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles use one of those picks on a quarterback.
Do the Eagles have more assets this year than they did the year they moved down and got Carson Wentz at 2?
No, they right now they have 3 first-round picks, and they have a ton
How
of
many
money.
did they have that year? Did they have 3 first-round picks that year?
They had
No.
2. What they did is they had 2, and no, they only had 1.
They had 1.
They traded the one. They traded the one in Kiko Alonso to Miami. Was it Miami?
Miami.
And then they took that Miami pick and the pick in 2017, and sent that to Cleveland for the number 2 pick.
Right. So with the assets that they have in first round this year, you don't think that they can move in to the top 10? They're still going to keep one of the picks too. Move into the top 10, go grab a quarterback.
Real quick, I want to answer Ryan's question. Fletcher Cox has a $12 million hit next year, a $14 million hit next year, and then a $12 million hit. Cox is on his way out. Like, there's no way he's on this team next year unless he restructures that deal.
And see, and I kind of don't want to do that because you're kicking the can down the road even more.
No, I think he's out. Like, I think he's done.
Yeah, I mean, well,
How much
at this
dead money
point,
is it going to hit them now if they cut him with all that money on there?
It'll only be his base salary in 2022 is 1.2, roster 1 million, option 2.9. Looks like 9 million.
So $9 million dead money per year, or just overall?
Just overall.
Okay,
It's not a Carson Wentz thing where
No.
it destroys you.
Yeah, so I mean, it's I can definitely see them if they think that there's a quarterback worth taking, they're going to do it. I mean, the
So
Eagles are.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Wentz wasn't that high in the I don't remember Wentz being that high until the combine happened and they interviewed him and they saw his arm strength and how athletic he was. You know, then he kind of jumped up on the board there.
Oh, he definitely jumped up.
Yeah, that's the same thing with Trey Lance from San Fran.
And Goff did the same thing. And then all of a sudden, right before the draft, they said, "Oh no, his hands look like doll hands. They're really small. We don't know if we want to draft the kid." He still went number 1 overall.
Yeah, you know that's the love for Jared Goff was was a little weird. I didn't understand it, and I didn't understand Carson Wentz, but the love for Jared Goff, he was an okay quarterback at Cal. Like, it was weird to me. But listen, if you can tell me right now that you can trade 1 first-round pick and a third and get Russell Wilson, I'll do it. I'm not trading 2 firsts. I'll give you a first and a third, or I'll give you a first now and a second in 2023. He's going to be
There
33
was
years old. The only problem is his contract. But again, their money opens up, with everybody who, the Wentz money's off the deal. The Fletcher Cox money will be off the deal. I don't think Brandon Brooks is back. Money tying up Rodney McLeod. Like there's, you got Kayvon Wallace sitting in the wings to, go in for, Rodney McLeod. Like there's a lot of money that's due to come off.
I think Russell Wilson's at the tail end of his prime. I really do. I mean, he's having a hard time producing right now with DK Metcalf in the lineup and Tyler Lockett, 2 good wide receivers. He's struggling.
Yeah, but how much of that
guy's
is
taking a lot of hits too. He's a small guy.
Well, how much of that is the line? How much of that is Russell Wilson? How much of that is?
I think he's breaking down, man. I think the finger injury is just one of many injuries we're going to see over the next few years. Wherever he goes, I think he's going to be like a Michael Vick. He's they're going to start him. Not Michael Vick in the sense that he can't read a defense and he mostly runs the ball, but Michael Vick in the sense that you're going to look at the schedule. You see 17 games out there, and that guy's probably only going to start 13 or 12 of them. Just because his durability, he just can't. I think he's past the healthy years where you're going to get 17, 16 full games out of that guy.
That's a very good possibility. I mean, he has taken a lot of hits, and he has been, there's been talk of him complaining about how much he's been sacked over the last few years. So,
yep.
And that injury to his finger very well may be, playing a big factor into how he's playing right now.
I just think that's the first domino to fall. I think it's a fluke injury. Yeah, you can look at it and say it, but eventually it's going to be his legs or it's going to be his shoulder. Small guy playing in the NFL taking that many hits. Drew Brees, you say, well, Drew Brees was the same size, but Drew Brees didn't take hits like that. Drew Brees got the ball out of his hand quick. He didn't run around. That ball, 3-step drop, that third foot was hitting, the ball was out of his hand. So he didn't get hit. So, same type of guy frame-wise, but 2 totally different styles. Like I said, Russell Wilson's just been getting beat up all these years, and the fact that he's been as durable as he has is amazing in and of itself. But, that's eventually all going to come to a head here. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be quarterbacks that are going to be available, and it's interesting to see how it's going to work out. There was a story that was out today. I think it was Jeff McLean from the Inquirer that put something out about Howie Roseman was going to be looking for a veteran but young quarterback for a possible trade, and I thought, veteran young quarterback, like who's going to give up a veteran young quarterback? And number one, if you're giving up a veteran young quarterback, who's good?
They failed. They were a veteran young quarterback, somebody who's failed in their first situation.
Exactly. That's like saying they're going to go out and trade for Josh Rosen.
That's exactly the guy I was thinking of. I don't know
how that dude was a number 2 pick.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. But yeah, that's exactly the type of trade you're talking about. Oh, come on, Patriots. We're never going to throw the ball tonight. Jesus Christ.
No, just keep running the ball.
They're just crowding the line so much. Just throw a few passes. Jesus. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, it's totally fine.
Listen, I'm watching a Sixers game. So you're sitting there, you're talking about Russell Wilson and everything else. So they run the ball 18 times a game, which just it's unacceptable in the NFL. You have Chris Carson, you have all those players. There should be no reason that you're running the ball.
Right.
Like Chris Carson's a good quarterback. I mean, a good running back. Am I wrong?
No, he's a good running back. Unfortunately, he may be done, but
Yeah, his numbers after contact are great, but he's another guy. Like he can't take the physical pounding. Like the thing is the running back that we got used to seeing him use was Marshawn Lynch, and that guy could take an absolute beating and dish it out, and just never seemed like he was ever going to hit that downside of his peak. Even when he came back for the Raiders, he was still laying people out. It was cool. It was kind of amazing, but like not too many running backs could take that kind of punishment. And they thought Chris Carson was the type of guy, he could take a hit and he could keep running. And like you said, his yards after contact were great, but every year, I mean, he might start 2 games and he's out 3 games and he starts 3 more and then he's out again. It's just he can never get that hamstring right. He can never get those knees right. It's a shame. And whoever they have as their second string, if it's Penny or somebody else, they can't handle it. So they're kind of stuck in that where they have to pass the ball. At least half their games every year, I feel like they're stuck in a scenario where they absolutely have to throw the ball, and that doesn't help.
Yeah, so they're averaging 19 rushing yards a game.
19 rushing attempts.
Not the rushing attempts. I'm sorry. Sixers are averaging 23. So if you don't like, for me, like that's with all the Jalen Hurts taking hits and everything. So if you don't think that won't put an ease on a quarterback's mind, I have to disagree with you. I think that 4 less times of you handing the ball off, that could be a couple more times you in the pocket. And let's be realistic. Like that line stinks for Seattle. Like they're terrible. Like they're not good. They thought they were because they had Russell Wilson, but again the guy's running for his life. He's like Paul Blake in Necessary Roughness, and Paul Blake's backup running behind the refs yelling blow the whistle.
Right.
So I mean, for me, it's a first and a third in 2022, or a first in 2022 and a second in 2023 for Russell Wilson. Or they trade for Carson Wentz again. That God, that would be awesome.
I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to make a run at Russell Wilson. They're getting out from the Kirk Cousins contract. And if you're Russell Wilson, would you rather go there or would you rather come to Philadelphia? Personally, I'd rather want to go throw the ball to Adam Thielen than Justin Jefferson and have Dalvin Cook to hand it off to.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's a more attractive situation for a veteran quarterback. Yeah.
Playing inside. Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's where I'd want to be. And Kirk Cousins, they're going to hit the reset button this year. They're getting rid of Zimmer, and they're going to get rid of Kirk Cousins because they can get out of that contract finally.
Yeah, and they got hit hard with Adam Thielen got hurt. Yep. I don't know how long he's out for, but he went down during the game.
Well, he's a high ankle sprain, so I mean he'll be out. Probably a good chunk of the remainder here. They're probably going to keep him out. We got 5 weeks left in the season. They'll probably keep him out probably for the last 3. If they're not in anything, they might just keep him out the rest of the way. Let him get healthy for next year. But I mean, he'll be back next year. So good situation for them. You got 2 stud wide receivers, one of the league's best running backs, and still pretty good offensive line going in there with a new coach. Now it depends on who they hire, and maybe they try to attract him there and say, we got a really good situation here for you, brand new coach, offensive minded. We think you'll work well. So, that might be a very good situation. Who knows? Again, you don't really know who they're going to be, trying to bid against. Now the Eagles do have picks, which kind of help. They can throw some picks. Throw picks Seattle's way, but I mean, still, Russell Wilson, I think at the end of the day, is going to have to agree to it. And if he has a shot to be able to go to Minnesota, which is a really good opportunity for him on a veteran team, I think he's going to take that.
Oh, I absolutely could see him doing that. Absolutely.
So you're sitting there and you think that he's going You think they're going to get away from Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I think this year they were saying, I read something today saying that this year was actually a pretty good out for them, going through the coaching change, and I think something with the contract they were saying too, that this is the first year where they can finally get out from under it and not be like absolutely backbreaking for them, because they said Zimmer's pretty much gone. They said there's no chance of him coming back.
If this is right on Spot Track, he's a $45 million dead cap
This year?
for 2022.
Well, then they ain't getting out from that. Yeah.
I had because I looked up his, and Russell Wilson's $37 million and $40 million for the next 2 seasons, and Kirk Cousins is $45 million. How the hell does Kirk Cousins get $45 million guaranteed?
Well, I think
They were drunk or high.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing is too, Kirk Cousins had a pretty good year. I mean, you may be able to sucker somebody into taking him. I doubt it with that kind of money, but there's no market for him.
I think he's got like 32 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's not worth $45 million.
No.
Unless
this is the best. This is the best season he's had, and they're still a mediocre team.
Right. Again, they're very mediocre. So he's not Dak Prescott. He's not Tom Brady. So that's ridiculous. $45 million contract. God bless Kirk Cousins. And he renegotiated. Like, think about it. He took 2 back-to-back franchise tags, got 3 years, $84 million guaranteed, and then got them to give him more money. No, I'm not saying his name again. I'm not saying it. But I'm like that's like I mean, come on. Like $45 million for Kirk Cousins?
Speaking of tough quarterback situations, I'm looking. People are telling me, well, Bill Belichick's going to win Coach of the Year this year. This is an unbelievable coaching job, and I'm looking at the Washington football team, the team that they had a name. I mean, their organization's so bad that they don't even have a team name. But Ron Rivera keeps winning, and he keeps winning with a guy that nobody wanted. Tyler Heineke is, he's basically from the scrap heap. And they're still getting the job done. They're still playing really well. Does he get considerations this year for Coach of the Year?
No.
Ron Rivera, you don't think so?
No.
I think that might be the hardest place to win, given the fact with the ownership and everything that's kind of you're up against there. You can't really make your own decisions. You're kind of just stuck with whatever he wants to go with on a whim. And that guy's still winning games, and that team's still in the hunt.
No,
I think
they're winning games based on their defense. Like they lost Chase.
But doesn't that go to him though? Isn't he part of all that?
What for coaching the defense?
Well, he's the head coach. He takes all that kind of blame. He gets all the praise there. I think he's having a good year on both sides of the ball from a coaching standpoint. I think he's had. Like I said, I love Bill Belichick, but I would not give him Coach of the Year this year. I think he actually has a very talented team. This is one of the more talented defenses he's had. But I look at Washington and I just say that team, they got some talent on defense, but man, on offense and with the quarterback situation as it is, and they keep winning. Again with Heineke, who, I would want him if I was coaching or a fan of the Montreal Alouettes. I wouldn't want that guy as my starting quarterback.
So you don't think that he's going to get figured out against the real defense?
Who, Heineke?
Yeah.
How many real defenses has he played?
He
beat the Bucks this year.
He beat the Bucks. More the defense really won that game.
The Raiders have a pretty good defense too, and he won that game.
Oh, hold on. Let's go back to that because the Raiders or the Washington football team got lucky because they missed the pass interference. They missed the 4 seconds that they didn't give Carr when he clearly was calling timeout with the guy on his back. So once again, another game came down to officiating. I watched the game. I watched the end of the game because it was a boring 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter was
great.
The fourth quarter was phenomenal. The guy was clearly yanking on his jersey, and they missed it.
Yeah, he missed that call.
You make that call in the Dallas game, but you miss it in this game. It was the same thing almost. Well, no, I will say no. Anthony Brown didn't turn around. But he's still grabbing his jersey, and you saw the jersey moving. Like you call that all the time.
Yeah, I don't know how they blew that one, but still, like I said, that team's for the injuries they've had, for the lack of leadership on the offensive side, with having a quarterback, like you said, basically you found in the supermarket. I just think that the fact that they're winning and have a shot at actually making the playoffs, I think is insane to me. Insane. I couldn't see. I don't know too many other coaches that could win in that situation, and that guy's getting it done.
I mean, he's got one good win against the Buccaneers.
I mean, the Raiders aren't a bad team, man. They smashed the Eagles. Eagles couldn't do anything to stop that team.
I mean, they lost by a touchdown. It was garbage time, but it was a touchdown. I mean, but hold on. So the Raiders beat Dallas. Does that mean Washington's better than Dallas?
Derek Carr marched up and down the Eagles defense that day like he was freaking
So did
Hannibal,
Zach Wilson yesterday,
running over the Romans, man. No, they won that game. They against the Raiders, they couldn't do anything to stop them. Anything. That was horrible. Like, did you go back? If you can go back, do you record the games? I record all the Pats games. Whenever the Pats are on TV, I have them. If you record the games, the Eagles games, go back and watch that Raiders game. They could not get off the field against Derek Carr. Derek Carr,
I know.
Hall of Famer. That game. That was crazy. And that guy, I never. Well, I shouldn't say never. The year he broke his leg at the very end of the season, I thought he had a great year that year. But aside from that, he hasn't really impressed me that much. And he impressed the shit out of me that day. Excuse my language. But like you said, he was masterful. And they played without Waller. He didn't have even the best target out there. And he still marched up and down the field on them.
Right. So let's look at the 3 wins. Panthers, Seahawks, and Raiders. I am not impressed by any of those wins. I'll give them the Buccaneers because they beat them by 10. They got to play Dallas. Dallas is going to blow them out of the water. Like, there's nothing telling me that UK. I'll be shocked if Dallas doesn't win by 10.
Is that their first game against Dallas or their second game?
It's their first game.
They're going to split with Dallas. They're split with Dallas this year.
I disagree. I think Dallas is good, and I hate to say that. I think that's saying. I hate saying. Do you know how much it's boiling my blood right now, knowing that Ryan and Greg, who I'm friends with, who are Dallas fans, I think they're going to go 4-1. They're going to lose to the Eagles. I'm calling that now right now.
No, they're
not beating the Eagles. They're not beating the Eagles on January 9th.
Oh, they'll sweep the Eagles. They got the Dallas has the Eagles number. Jalen Hurts has looked awful against that team. Horrible. I think the Eagles will split with the Washington football team. I think they're going to get swept by the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to split with the Washington football team. I think Dallas will probably win the first game that they play them, or the home game, I should say, comfortably by 14 points, 2 scores, whatever. 11 points, 10 points. It'll be a comfortable win. And the second time they play Washington, they're going to look terrible. Like they can't do anything right. Like I said, that's my take on it. They're going to look kind of how they looked against Denver. And I can't say why I feel that way, but it's just a hunch. Like they look great some weeks. Like they look great against the Patriots, march up and down the field on a good defense. Then they go out and they laid an egg against Denver. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just like every few games that team they take their foot off the gas. They didn't pay attention that week, and they didn't cross their T's and dot their I's, in practice all week, and they missed a lot of little things, and it cost them the game. I could see that happening. And again, that speaks really more to the coaching. I don't think McCarthy's a good coach. I think he has a lot of talent around them. And I don't see them beating Washington. I think Washington's defense still has some teeth to it. I don't see them being successful and moving the ball on them consistently 2 straight games. The Eagles, like I said, for whatever reason, Jalen Hurts looks absolutely terrible against that team. He looked horrible last year, and I think it was week 14 or 15. Couldn't do anything right, and then he looked terrible in the start this year down in Dallas. Games at home could be a little bit different. I could be wrong, but that's just the way I'm looking at it. I think it's a sweep for Dallas against the Eagles. I think they're going to split with Washington.
So
I really don't. I don't see them beating them anytime at all. Dallas. I mean, Eagles beating Dallas. I don't see that at all. It's clear they're the best team in the division. I, oddly enough, could see Washington beating them twice. I really could. Washington has been playing surprisingly well. Like
That's what I mean. Yeah, they are like they're a team that you look at on paper and you're just like, wow, I can't believe this team has that many wins. Like, you know, I'm shocked every week when I check the scores because they're not on TV a whole lot. You know, I watched them yesterday. I watched that fourth quarter, but you know, I when I check the scores and I see that they've won these games, and I watched them play against Tampa, I'm like, Jesus, how does this team keep winning? Like I said, it's shocking to me. Ron Rivera was the type of guy, you know, he's in Carolina. Some years they had really good years, and other years it was like, man, what the hell happened to this team? They were great last year.
So you're saying that Ron Rivera is a good coach?
I think Ron Rivera is a very good coach. Yes,
but he's only had 3 winning seasons as a coach in 11 years in the league. He's had 3 winning seasons, and one of those was a 15-1 season. He's what's his name? He's Jeff Fisher, but Puerto Rican. Like
no, I think you could say he was like the guy that was in Cincinnati for a while. What was his name? Marvin Lewis.
Marvin Lewis had winning seasons. He just couldn't win in the playoffs.
Yeah, but like you said, Ron Rivera has had some winning seasons too.
He's had 3. He's had 3. He was 12-4, 15-1, and 11-5. He was 6-10, 7-9, 7-8-1, 6-10, 7-9, 5-7. Got fired, 7-9, and he's 6-6. Listen, Ron Rivera has a lot of respect and is a very respectable coach. I just think he's overrated. You're sitting there. You're telling me he's very successful. He's not. He's had 3 good seasons in 11 years. That's not good.
The way I look at it, though, it's very easy to say that on paper. But when you're playing Drew Brees twice a year, when you're playing Matt Ryan and the Falcons when they were kind of peaking twice a year, you know you're in a tough division. He's been in a tough division. That was all during a time too where the AFC West or the NFC West was the best division in football. So along with his division, so you know you're probably every couple of years you're playing 1 or 2 or 3 of those teams. So you know they're not playing.
But he's in a shit league right now in the NFC East. He went 7-9 last year. It's 7-9.
He won the division, didn't he?
Is that good coaching? No, is that good coaching? He won the division.
Who won the division?
He won the division because Dak's ankle was hanging out of the Texas freeway.
Still won the division, and they came close to knocking Brady off.
He's an overrated coach.
What team gave the Bucs the toughest time in the playoffs last year?
Okay, it happens.
Who was it?
You're out of your mind if you think Ron Rivera is this great coach that you're talking about. The stats say he's an okay coach. He's not a great coach. The stats say the analytics say he's an okay coach. And the stats say he's an okay coach. He's Jeff Fisher.
We're going with analytics. We should bring Howie into this conversation.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm looking at the analytics of it. 11 seasons. He's had 3 winning seasons. How many excuses does he get? Like I'm asking you, and I'm going to give you the floor. 11 seasons. So he's and one of those seasons was 15-1. Imagine what his record would be if it wasn't 15-1.
Well, he did go to a Super Bowl too. Yeah, that's a year he did go to a Super Bowl.
So did Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher's been to 2.
No, Jeff Fisher only went to 1.
I thought he went to 2. Titans.
No, they lost to the Rams. Should have been pick 6. Jesus Christ.
But he had prime cam. But that's my point is like you're sitting there and we're talking about it. He's okay. The love for him, and I was very upset that he signed with Washington because I want Washington to continually be the disaster that they are. And when you sit back and you look at the numbers, he's an okay coach. Right now, he's probably the second best coach in the division because of where he's at. Like he's 6-6. He had the success of going to a Super Bowl. He had the success of winning, a couple divisions in his career.
He also, some of those years where they went 7-9, didn't win a whole lot of games. His quarterback was hurt for a chunk of the season. It's tough when your starting quarterback goes down. How many of those seasons were Cam Newton didn't finish the year, didn't play 16 games?
Well, then, if you're a good coach, you get the best out of your secondary players.
Well, he is kind of doing that this year, though. It was tough.
Tyler Heineke he lost the starter because they signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's it. That's the only reason if Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't hurt, he's probably the starter still. If he doesn't throw his 8 interceptions a game after his 4 touchdown performance against the Eagles. But you're missing my point I'm telling you he's an okay coach. I think your evaluation of him being a great coach is there. He's
Well, I mean,
overrated.
you brought up
It-
a 7-9 season last year. Guy had a 7-9 season.
Okay,
won
but he had a
division.
6-10 season. He had a 7-9 season. He had a
Yes.
12-4 season. He had
He
a
had 7-9
7-8-1.
He had a
He's
7-9 season last year. Led the team to the playoffs and cancer. I mean, I think
Oh my God!
doing all that.
So
doing all
because
that was-
because he had cancer, he's a great coach. Is Oscar
No,
Lindblom
he
a
had a
great
great
player?
He had a
Because
great
cancer and
season
scored a
last
goal?
year because of that. I mean, you won 7 games, you won your division, and you did that in spite of all that. I think it's pretty remarkable. And like I said, him winning this year, I think is pretty remarkable. You lost your best player on defense. The guy you bought in to be your starting quarterback got hurt in week 2. He's winning with a guy that couldn't even make it in NFL Europe. And
It was the sixth play. It was the sixth pass he got hurt.
okay,
I think
yeah.
it was
I mean,
three for
that helped. That even makes my point even more. You know,
your point. I'm making your point. I'm killing your point because you're saying he's a good coach and that he's winning, but he wasn't always successful. How many excuses does he get? Does he get 8 or does he get 7? Does he get 7 excuses because he had 7 bad seasons as opposed to 3? And if he goes 10 or 11-6 this year, he'll have 4 good seasons out of 11. That makes him a great coach.
I think he's a great. I think he deserves Coach of the Year this year. That's all I'm saying. I think this year he's winning with.
No, it's no. Darth Poop brought up Cliff Kingsbury is Coach of the Year. That dude won. That dude won with Colt McCoy at quarterback for 3 straight games. That's good coaching.
Colt McCoy won that first game where what's his name went off. Kenyon Drake went off, and then they stunk the following week.
What is your love with Ron Rivera?
I think the guy's a good coach.
He's an okay coach. Well, I don't like. I just told you why Cliff Kingsbury was, and you came up with a reason why he wasn't. Just tell me.
Well, Cliff Kingsbury, who's winning games with the more talented roster? What's a more talented roster? Does Arizona have a better defense, a more talented defense than Washington does?
Do they?
I think yeah, I do. I think so. Do they have a more talented offense? Yeah, I think they do.
Well, obviously,
do they have a more talented quarterback? Yeah, I think they do. So I think it's a little bit of an easier scenario for him to go win games.
They're 6-6, not 10-2.
They're 10-2. Who's in their division? Look at that division. That division's garbage.
Now it's the division.
It is
Years
the division.
ago, when the Patriots were all dominating, it was always Patriots fans. Look who you play 3 times a year.
Yeah, our division sucked.
Oh,
I'm not gonna make an apology for that. The division sucked.
Oh no, I'm not saying that, but I'm like,
he's playing against Seattle. They're playing against Seattle.
Look at the Eagles. Look at the NFC East. It is terrible.
But the talent gap between Arizona and the other 3 teams in that division is huge. The talent gap between and who's better in that division? Whose division's better at this point? Would you think Seattle? The Rams, well, yeah, the Rams are a good team, but they're kind of coming down. Yeah, I mean, 2 of the bottom end teams there aren't good. San Francisco's not good this year.
They're 6
and Seattle's not.
They're 6-6. They got injuries. Jimmy Garoppolo was out. Trey Lance is. Does Kyle Shanahan get your vote for a possible Coach of the Year?
No, I think Kyle Shanahan's actually a really good coach. He's struggling though this year.
He just can't listen. Kyle Shanahan is the best coach until there's 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
he
lost that Super Bowl. I mean, they had it. They had 10 minutes to go. I think he was up 10 points, and he couldn't get a playoff.
The NFC West is so much better than the NFC East, with the exception of Seattle. How bad? I'll tell you this. I'm really shocked that Seattle's 4-8. That you could hit me. I would have bet you $1,000 that Seattle wouldn't have lost 8 games this year.
Well, I was kind of shocked that they actually came back and won that.
Something got muted. Go ahead.
Oh, Ron, go. Yeah, like I said, I am not impressed by that team at all this year, Seattle. But I am surprised that they won. The fact that they are still playing down the stretch here. I mean, do you bring Pete Carroll back? I don't know. I think he might be on his way out too. It's a shame, but he won't get hired in another spot. I think he's too old at this point.
I mean, like an impressive win for me is a 38-13 victory over the Titans. Like the Rams, they blew out. The Browns they blew out. The Texans they held to 5 points. That's a ridiculous number. Like 5 points. You should be kicked out of the league for a season if you score 5 points. But yeah, you're right. They shit the bed against the Panthers. I don't know how they lost. Oh. Cam Newton was like, "I'm back," and was like, "I'm the quarterback."
I think speaking of 5, I think that was his QBR last week. He was terrible.
I don't even know if it was that. So with that, let's turn it over to Mr. Eric, since he sat there and listened to our arguments for the last however many. 5.8 his rating was. Jesus Christ.
That's why I was right. I was just kidding around when I said 5. I completely threw that number out there.
Jesus Christ. Oh. He did have a rush for 64 yards. That was his only carry. Jesus Christ. That's when he said, "I'm back," and then they lost by like 80. So, what are your thoughts, Eric, on Coach of the Year and your love and the love for Ron Rivera?
Actually, there was a comment earlier that said Cliff Kingsbury was probably could win Coach of the Year, and I actually thought of him while you guys were talking about that, and that comment came up. I like what he's done out there, with Arizona. Especially being down Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins for a while, and they just kept right on going. Which
I think people, like you said, I think people forget how long Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins was out.
Yeah, and another big thing for them was the reemergence of James Conner. Like, that dude has just been having a great season for them, and a lot of people have written him off. And if Chase Edmonds went down and Conner just took over, and he's been really good for them. So, yeah, I mean, when you lose a DeAndre Hopkins, who's one of the best wide receivers in the game, you lose your starting quarterback, who's one of the best young quarterbacks in the game, and you lose your starting running back. And they just didn't miss a beat. I mean, how does he not get consideration for Coach of the Year? So, I mean, that was I forget who said it on the comments, but that is.
It was Keith.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't know. They all got like these different names up there. The only one I know is Drew, because he's actually using his name. So,
no, the other that's Ryan right there.
Okay. All right. But with what he had to go through as a coach, and I'm talking Kingsbury here, and just keep right on moving. That's amazing. So I could absolutely give it to him.
So here's a thought, and I'm just looking at the standings. Clearly, John Gruden's not getting Coach of the Year votes. If Tennessee locks up the number 1 seed, the lot has to happen. They go 13-4. Is Vrabel considered Coach of the Year? He legitimately lost the best running back in football. Let me rephrase that. He lost the MVP of the league. In my opinion, he was the MVP. Does he get a consideration? Now, this is me.
Consideration.
This is me saying they win outright and they go 13-4. Right. They clinch the number 1 seed. Because remember, only one team gets a seed. Only gets the number 1 gets the bye.
Right.
So.
Yeah, he'll definitely get consideration for that, because that's okay. What are you saying?
None. I didn't say anything.
No, you put your finger up and.
Oh no! I was just that was just my Irish way of talking.
Oh, yeah, no, he definitely gets consideration, because when you lose a potential MVP candidate, it hurts, and if you can just keep right on rolling, then you have to be up there in consideration. And I like Vrabel, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm really impressed with what he's done in Tennessee, how he's turned around Ryan Tannehill. I'm impressed with that.
Yeah, Vrabel's a good coach. He adapted to the new league as opposed to where they were. Because, if you go on the social media boards, a lot of people want Seth Joyner to come in here as the coach. And unfortunately, his style right now, it doesn't work. It didn't work with Mike Singletary when he was in the 49ers. you have to kind of baby.
Yeah,
You kind of have to baby these players, not baby them, but you can't hurt their feelings.
No, you're exactly right with that. Seth Joyner, I like when ex players who are doing um, commentary on post game shows who played the game for a long time, know the game, call out current players or the coaching staffs when they're playing like crap or calling crap games. I absolutely love Seth Joyner on the post game show.
He's
He
phenomenal.
was my first favorite Philadelphia Eagle. He was the first jersey I ever had, and I love watching him on the post game show. Like I record it and I watch it afterwards. I love it, and I wouldn't want him as head coach. I would not want him as the head coach.
He was great on American Gladiators.
So
Did you guys forget he was on there?
yeah, clearly.
Yeah, he was actually on there when the NFL competed in American Gladiators. He was on there. He's pretty awesome. He did pretty well.
So, obviously, with that being said, and we're an hour and 2 minutes in, we'll end this show. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is a starter, which I'm fine with. For whatever reason, people think I hate Jalen Hurts. Unfortunately, Fly Eagles Fly isn't on here, and Bill isn't on here to harass. I don't hate Jalen Hurts. There's no point in hating the guy. I want the guy to succeed. But if you look at yesterday's game and realize that Minshew read the defense better, there's nothing more I can tell you.
Yeah, no, I mean it was clear yesterday that when you have someone under center who's a passer and is able to read a defense, who I'm not going to say doesn't need to develop, but I mean you could clearly see that there is a complete difference between Minshew and Jalen Hurts, and it's only in the passing game. That's all it is. Like I truly feel that all around, Jalen Hurts could become a better overall quarterback than Minshew, but fact is right now he's not. He's better when it comes to his legs and his escapability and running and extending a play. But when you're doing the RPOs, you need someone that can throw the ball. And I don't know if it's Jalen Hurts that doesn't understand the system or if they don't know how to use Jalen Hurts properly. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a coach. I can't say it. I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think he's a franchise quarterback.
So, with that being said, do you know who else had a somewhat okay arm and was very serviceable?
Chad
Who was
Pennington.
that?
Stop it with
Chad
the Chad Pennington. I was going to say Nick Foles. Nick Foles does not have the greatest arm in the world. He was serviceable. And with that, that's how I'm ending the show.
Well, look, before we end off, I do have to say one thing. I am finding it very hysterical if you talk to Eagles fans, how all of a sudden now the backup QB love is gone. It's completely gone. So I find that hysterical right now. And I'm just going to say it. I honestly think that a lot of people are all over Jalen Hurts because they see the trend in the quarterbacks right now. Young, athletic, black quarterbacks. They see us with a young, athletic, black quarterback, and people just want the young, athletic, black quarterback to succeed because they see Kyler Murray's, they see Patrick Mahomes, they see Lamar Jackson's. So I think that's like the trend.
Yeah, except Patrick Mahomes has a really good arm.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like
Kyler Murray has a really good arm.
Right,
I know
what you're saying. All right, I understand what you're saying. All right,
I'm
but
just making your
I
balls.
really think that that's why people really want him to succeed.
No, you're 100% right.
And I don't fault anybody for that. But where I fault people is they're so blind to just wanting him to succeed. They're not looking at his obvious deficiencies, and they all keep saying, "Oh, well, he needs 2 years." I saw one person say he needed 3 years for them to decide if he's the franchise quarterback. I was like, "No, you don't."
All right, and with that, I'm going to end it with this. So make sure you watch, Ryan. Jalen Hurts is better than Dak Prescott.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's easy to sum it up. We talking about practice.
Because it's about as casual as it gets. What's the problem now?
That's a clown question, bro.
I think we ought to turn the beat in at least.
World champions!
Start playing with some jam in here. Let's go.
Philadelphia, looking as only you can look. Woo!
Here we go.
Well, that was a good show.